guys, welcome back to the Homestead Kitchen. If you're new here, I'm Jessica, and I'm usually the one in the kitchen making a mess. Today I'm making some tortillas, some flavored tortilla wraps, and some cornbread muffins for a bake sale we're doing tomorrow. So if you want to hang out with me and see how I do that, stick around. You asked, so here it is. The tortilla recipe is so easy. It's 3 ingredients. I'm adding 2.5 cups of flour and about a teaspoon of salt to my bowl, and then once that's combined, I'm adding about 1/4 of a cup to 1/3 of a cup of lard. Please don't use Crisco. Please use lard. And if you don't want to use lard, use butter, but please don't use Crisco. Lard is the best. All we're doing here is cutting the lard into the flour like you would cut butter into flour for a cake. So it's very easy. You just want your consistency to be like moon sand. You want it to easily break apart. If there's any little clumps in the flour, which you can see them, but if you grab the little clumps and pinch them, they should easily break apart into sand. They shouldn't still be sticky, like sticky lard. So once you have that consistency, get 1 cup of hot water. Don't add it all at once though. This is the big thing. Add 1/2 cup first and then slowly add a little bit as you go, and wait. Like, don't say, oh, I added 1/2 cup and it's still dry, let me add another 1/4 cup. Oh, it's still dry, let me add the rest. No, wait a little bit. This video is sped up, so incorporate your flour into your water and keep going, and then you can see if you need more. You do want a well hydrated dough, so don't be afraid to add your water. But I find that people who can't make tortillas and they're like, oh, how do you do that? I can't do it. It's because their dough is too wet and it's sticky. See how I slowed this down and the dough wasn't sticking to the bowl at all? That's what you're looking for. So you're ready to go as soon as your dough forms a ball and isn't sticking. Look how beautiful this is. It stretches. It doesn't stick to my hand. It's supple. It's soft. Perfect for tortillas. So here I'm not really kneading, but I'm forming a pretty ball with it, and I'm adding just a little bit of flour back into the dough when I do this. That way I can make sure that it's not going to be sticky at all. You don't want a sticky tortilla dough. You can't work with it. It's going to cause you trouble. You're going to get mad and say, no, I think I'll just buy the tortillas. But those are my main tips. Add the water slowly. If you end up with a dry dough, add more water. If you end up with a wet dough, add more flour. I'm going to show you in a minute how I added too much water and how I fixed that. This is another thing. Whenever you make your tortilla dough, you need it to sit for 30 minutes to an hour before you form your little balls. And then once you form your balls, you should really let them sit another 20-30 minutes before you roll them out and make your tortillas. This allows the gluten bonds to relax and allows you to roll out your tortillas. If you don't do this, you're going to be rolling, but your tortilla is not going to get thin. It's not going to get big. It's just going to keep shrinking back up, and you're working against yourself. So make sure you let your dough relax before you try to move on to the next step of forming your balls and rolling them out to cook. Alright, here we go. So this is the batch that I added. You can see how fast I added the water. I did not wait long enough. I just poured because I might not have been fully paying attention, or I misjudged and thought that it needed all of that water. It did not. It got too sticky and it stuck to the side walls of my KitchenAid bowl, and you can see that I go in and add more flour and try to get the dough back to where it needs to be and not sticking to the side wall. But this is what I mean when I say go slow with the water, because it's harder to correct this way than it is to slowly add water. So I'm adding the flour and hoping that it'll form a ball and release from the sidewall, but it's never going to fully release from the bottom of the bowl. It's just stuck on the bottom and it's making twists. So whenever it releases from the side and it's not sticking to the side anymore, I go ahead and stop and pull it out. and I just decide to add the rest of my flour back in until it's not sticky on my board. So you can fix it. I mean, if you add too much water, you can add your flour back in and you can fix it and it'll be fine. So don't be scared to make tortillas. They're so easy. They're 3 ingredients. You can add flavors and seasonings and whatever you want. And, you know, it's fun. It's fun to work with your hands. I used to do this. I did not have a KitchenAid until last Christmas. My grandma got it for me for my birthday and Christmas. But I didn't have one, so I did this process by hand, and it's really not that hard to do by hand. It's not as much work as you'd think. It's a little bit of work, but one more tip, and as I'm washing my bowl in between different flavored wraps so I don't mix my flavors and ingredients, one more tip is once your ball is made, make sure that you either wrap it in saran wrap if it's going to be a while before you make your balls, or take some lard and coat the outside of your ball with lard, because you don't want the outside of your tortilla dough to get too crispy, or you're just going to have trouble rolling out your balls. So I'm making some spinach wraps here. I don't know what it is about spinach wraps. Spinach is kind of a hard flavor to recognize. So I put a lot of spinach in here, and this spinach was Dole brand spinach, and it was probably the most flavorful spinach I've had in a long time. But in the wraps, it still just wasn't that strong. So if you want burrito tortillas, this recipe will make 9 wraps. 9 burrito tortillas or 9 wraps. If you want smaller tortillas, then, you know, just make your ball smaller. You can choose your size of your ball and the size of your tortilla. Whenever you roll them out, you want to take your ball, flour everything real well, flour the outside of your ball and your board, and then kind of smash it with your hand, roll a couple times, and flip the dough over. You know, roll it a couple times, flip the dough over, roll it a couple times. Keep repeating this. That's the easiest way to form a circle whenever you're rolling out your dough. You don't want to just keep rolling your dough out. You need to flip that thing over. When you cook it in your skillet, you want a really hot cast iron skillet or griddle or whatever you choose to use. It needs to be hot. And the key to cooking tortillas is cook them fast. So you want to put it on, it'll start to rise and you'll start to see bubbles. Flip it, count to 5, and then take it out. If you're worried it's not cooked, it is. It's cooked. And also it's flour and water, so there's nothing in it that can hurt you if it's not fully cooked. But if you cook your tortillas too long, they'll actually get crispy, and then whenever you go to wrap them or fold them or mold them, they'll just crack and break. So you want to cook them fast. That way you don't get a crunchy outside layer. This is what my corn muffins and wraps looked like at the bake sale, and we had a lot of fun with it. But thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time in the Homestead Kitchen.